tapped Eric Holder to become his Attorney General. If confirmed, Holder would become the first African-American to lead the Justice Department. Holder served as Deputy Attorney General in the Clinton administration and as U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Many pundits have described Obama's victory as ushering in a new, quote, post-racial era. Obama's victory speech placed his victory in the context of some of the dramatic changes in American society over the past century from the perspective of a 106-year-old African-American woman from Atlanta.
This election had many firsts and many stories that will be told for generations, but one that's on my mind tonight is about a woman who cast her ballot in Atlanta. She is a lot like the millions of others who stood in line to make their voice heard in this election, except for one thing. Ann Nixon Cooper is 106 years old. She was born just a generation past slavery, a time when there were no cars on the road or planes in the sky, when someone like her couldn't vote for two reasons: because she was a woman and because of the color of her skin. And tonight, I think about all that she's seen throughout her century in America: the heartache and the hope, the struggle and the progress, the times we were told that we can't, and the people who pressed on with that American creed, yes, we can. At a time when women's voices were silenced and their hopes dismissed, she lived to see them stand up and speak out and reach for the ballot. Yes, we can. When there was despair in the Dust Bowl and depression across the land, she saw a nation conquer fear itself with a new deal, new jobs, a new sense of common purpose. Yes, we can. When the bombs fell on our harbor and tyranny threatened the world, she was there to witness a generation rise to greatness and a democracy was saved. Yes, we can. She was there for the buses in Montgomery, the hoses in Birmingham, a bridge in Selma, and a preacher from Atlanta who told the people that we shall overcome. Yes, we can. A man touched down on the moon. A wall came down in Berlin. A world was connected by our own science and imagination. And this year, in this election, she touched her finger to a screen and cast her vote. Because after 106 years in America, through the best of times and the darkest of hours, she knows how America can change. Yes, we can.
President-elect Barack Obama giving his victory speech in Grant Park in Chicago earlier this month. My next guest is a celebrated scholar and public intellectual whose books include Race Matters and Democracy Matters, Princeton University professor of religion and African-American studies Cornel West. His latest book is Hope on a Tightrope, Words and Wisdom. He writes, quote, "Now here we are in 2008. America finds itself looking to its blues people again to provide vision to a nation with the blues. That is a source of hope. Yet hope is no guarantee. Real hope is grounded in a particularly messy struggle, and it can be betrayed by naive projections of a better future that ignore the necessity of doing the real work. So what we are talking about is hope on a tightrope." Professor Cornel West joins us from Princeton, New Jersey. Welcome to Democracy Now!
My dear Amy, how you doing there?
It's great to have you with us.
I want to salute your courage and your vision. You are a long-distance runner for justice, and I love it and love you, I tell you.
Well, congratulations on your new book, Hope on a Tightrope. When people talk about a post-racial America, what is your response?
I say there's no such thing, Amy. You know, by post-racial, they really mean less racist. You're talking about white brothers and sisters who are now willing to vote for a black man based on qualification as opposed to pigmentation. That's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, it recognizes that there was a time in which pigmentation would trump qualification. Black people have been voting for white candidates, as in Gary, Indiana. You had a white mayor, the Chocolate City. Black people voted for the white candidate vis-a-vis the black candidate because the white candidate was better. That wasn't post-racial. It was just black people were less racist. And so we have to be honest about this. No such thing as post-racial in that regard. It's a beautiful thing to be less racist. Same is true for colorblind. We can't say colorblind on the one hand and then be so happy when we cross the color line and vote for Brother Barack Obama. That there is a color line, we cross it, we're trying to stay in contact with the humanity of each other. We need to be embracing of each other's humanity, not trying to subtract our bodies and somehow be colorblind and post-racial.
Professor Cornel West, you were a big supporter of Barack Obama, but you also have been giving speeches about holding him to account. What are the issues you are most concerned about right now?
Oh, I think as a deep Democrat, I recognize I have some significant differences with Brother Barack. He's a liberal and looks like he wants to govern as a liberal centrist, given the choices of Rahm Emanuel, and others. And one has to be honest and candid in terms of one's criticism, because in the end, it's not about Barack Obama. It's about empowering working people and poor people. It's about trying to accent the dignity of those so-called everyday people. And when he moves in that direction, is good. When he doesn't move in that direction, we need to criticize him. Same is true in terms of foreign policy. Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East. We have to be honest about it. For me, my criticism of Barack has to do with trying to acknowledge the degree to which, one, thank God we're at the end of the age of Ronald Reagan. We're at the end of the era of conservatism. We're coming to the end of the epic of the Southern strategy. For the first time now, we've got some democratic possibilities. This has been a political ice age, and the melting is just beginning. Barack Obama is the symbol, but we got to move from symbol to substance. We got to move from what he represents in a broad sense, and it's a beautiful thing to have a black man in the White House. We know that, and black slaves and laborers and other white immigrants built the White House, and to have a black family there, significant. Black face for the American empire, fine. Can we revitalize democratic possibilities on the ground with Barack in the White House? I think we can. We can put some serious pressure on him, and we can actually continue the democratic awakening among working people and poor people and push Barack in a progressive direction.
Can you talk about just this latest news that came out last night? Of course, not the official announcement, but Eric Holder, the former Deputy Attorney General under President Clinton, being tapped as the next Attorney General, if confirmed.
Well, two things. First, on a personal level, I know Brother Eric Holder. I've spent good time with him in meetings and so on. He's a brilliant a lawyer. He's a very decent human being. I know he was very upset about Clinton's attitude toward crime. We know during the Clinton administration we got the tightening of the mandatory sentences has had devastating effects on poor communities, especially disproportionately black and brown poor communities. And Eric took a strong stand in that regard. I appreciate that, because there's a sense that we kind of whitewashed the Clinton administration. Welfare bill, crime, deregulation, and so forth. We got to be honest about some of the flaws during the age of Reagan and the Clinton moments during the age of Reagan, and Eric did take a stand. On the other hand, of course, I'm sure I have some disagreements with him, but I am a little suspicious, in fact, highly suspicious of the degree to which my dear brother Barack Obama seems to be recycling all of these Clintonites. I'm looking for an age of everyday people, not a Clintonite recycling in this new period. And so I'm a little bit suspicious of this, though I think Eric Holder is much better than many of the other Clintonites that's being recycled.
Well, let me ask you about this comment of Mario Murillo, who's a professor at Hofstra, talking about Eric Holder. You know, he worked as a partner at the D.C. law firm of Covington and Burling. His clients included Chiquita. Last week, we reached Mario in Colombia, and he talked about Holder's representation of Chiquita.
There's been talk about a close ally and friend of Obama as a potential Attorney General for the United States, Eric Holder, who is currently defending Chiquita Brand International in its defense against dozens of plaintiffs here in Colombia, working families who are targeted by paramilitaries who are funded to the tune of $1.7 million over the last several years. It's a major scandal, and if this guy becomes the Attorney General under an Obama administration, it's going to be really hard to find justice in this case coming from the United States.
That was Mario Murillo in Colombia. Professor Cornel West.
Yeah, no, again, this is one of the reasons why we love the work that you do, Sister Amy. This is the first that I've heard of this. I would want to hear from my dear brother Eric and see what he has to say. Now, we know, of course, so many of these corporate firms, they defend all kind of different elites in various parts of the world, and we want to know the degree to which Eric Holder personally and politically and ideologically supports the kind of things going on, as opposed to the kind of role that one plays within a legal firm. Because oftentimes these firms take stances that are not in agreement with the individual lawyers themselves. You know that lawyers take a variety of different cases. It could be criminals and a whole host of others. Lawyers tend to go where they are told. But I would want to hear what Brother Eric Holder has to say about this. This is very interesting, actually.
I also wanted to ask you about this wave of what seems to be an increased number of hate crimes since the election of Barack Obama all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, I expect a white backlash, and there's no doubt about that. But the wonderful thing about this is that, one, we know that, this white backlash in no way speaks for the vast majority of white brothers and sisters. This is very different than 40 or 50 years ago, where it was closer to the mainstream or more mainstream white brothers